Hello everyone, the Nerdy Steve here, and today we will be featuring a Boros Heroic Prowess deck, Magecraft deck in Explorer. The link to the list is in the description below. I'm going to talk about the plan of the deck, and then we'll play a couple of games, so let's go. So, this deck has one big strategy, right? And so we have a lot of creatures like 10th District Legionnaire, which is a 2/2 that gets +1/+1 when you target it with a spell. We have Illuminator Virtuoso, which has double strike, and whenever you target it with a spell, you connive, which can give a +1/+1 counter on it. We have Clever Lumimancer, which is a creature that whenever you copy an instant or sorcery, or cast an instant and sorcery, it gets +2/+2. You might be sensing a theme. Then we also have Soul-Scar Mage, which has Prowess, so whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +1/+1. And so what this deck really wants to do is it wants to get these creatures out on the battlefield and cast a lot of cantripping, cheap instants and sorceries. Cantripping meaning cards that draw another thing when you cast them, to get really, really big threats very, very quickly and to kill your opponent as soon as possible. In addition to having these creatures, we also have a Dreadhorde Arcanist, which is a 1/3 creature, and it doesn't have, prowess or heroic or anything like that, but it does allow you to recast instant or sorceries in your graveyard to allow you to rebuy those, use those again, and re-trigger all of your other creatures. And on top of all of that, we have our instants and sorceries that, we're going to use to pump. And there's nothing really special here. It's kind of like what you would assume. We have just Invigorating Rampage is probably one of the most important cards in this deck, because giving something trample after it's been pumped up a lot is really, really powerful in this deck, because if your opponent has a chump blocker, then it doesn't matter how many, spells you've cast, if the creature just gets chumped. And so Invigorated Rampage is really important, specifically with Illuminator Virtuoso. Giving a double striker trample is a really good part of the plan of this deck. And speaking of trample, we also have Ancestral Anger, which gives the creature, +1/+0, or +X/+0 for how many of these you've cast previously, and then draws you a card. We have Defiant Strike, Infuriate, Samut Sprint, and God's Willing, as always, to, very easily pump your things and grant these spells, grant some type of evasion with trample or protection, and all that. And then we also have Reckless Rage, which is the deck's like really only form of interaction. So Reckless Rage, you get to deal 4 damage to target creature you don't control, and then 2 damage to creature you control. And that downside of 2 damage to creature you control is mitigated because a lot of times when you target your own things, they will survive the Reckless Rage being, resolving. So it's really just, for 1 red mana, you deal 4 damage to an opposing creature, which is wonderful. And then we also have our companion Jegantha, because, I was playing this deck for a while, and then I was like, wait, we just have a free companion, so Jegantha is our free companion. And with all that being said, let's go play some games. So this is a decent hand. We have, we have a lot of our spells that we can cast, right? Or we have creatures that we can cast that can get really big really quickly. And we also have Illuminator Virtuoso, which is probably the most important or powerful card enabler in our deck. With Illuminator Virtuoso, you can kind of, do your thing much more quickly and reliably, because you can, filter out the lands when you connive with it. Let's hope our opponent doesn't have a Fatal Push. Our opponent did, which is a little disappointing, because now our clock is a little slow, and our opponent can have a lot of interaction with it. It's also very, very important to note, one of the things that has messed me up with this deck a lot is the Auto Tapper and Ramunap Ruins. It is very, very common for the Graveyard Trespasser. For the Auto Tapper to, you know, when you want to use Reckless Rage, it will tap one of your red and white sources instead of the Ramunap Ruins, and then you won't be able to cast, you know, a Defiant Strike or something like that. So it is something worth to keep in mind. Alright. So now I'm gonna do this manually for the red, just in case we draw something we might want to cast. And then we will Reckless Rage the... Alright, and our opponent GG'd. We have the Clever Lumimancer and Soul-Scar Mage as our turn 1 play. And so this is also one of the interesting parts about this deck. I don't know which one we want to do turn 1. Clever Lumimancer gets bigger quickly, but Soul-Scar Mage, if I don't cast anything this turn, it will deal 1 damage, which is not irrelevant, right? Being able to attack for 1. Like, if we had the Soul-Scar Mage there, we could have attacked and not had to worry about what our opponent was doing. So it's just something, you know, to consider. I don't know what is or isn't correct. But, you know. I don't know if our opponent can go off here. So let's attack. See what our opponent does. We can Infuriate this. We'll discard the Soul-Scar Mage. So now that's 10. And our opponent's at 4. And with God's Willing giving the Virtuoso pro green, if our opponent can't go off here, we might be good. Pro red kind of stops us. So if we God's Willing this to be what? Pro we want our opponent to block with the Devilish Valet, right? Because Luminancer and 10th District Legionnaire are going to be lethal. So if we attack with everything, our opponent's going to Risen Reef on one of these, take 2, and is forced to Valet here. So we don't want pro red. We'll discard that. We'll choose pro green. Oh, maybe we wanted that land on top to activate the Den of the Bugbear. Yeah, so our opponent's only going to have the land or Elvish Mystic. We would love another land, though. Or not. No. I mean, a land's kind of fine. We would love another spell. Otherwise, we could be in a very bad spot. Alright. Risen Reef and Innkeeper. Ouch. And Steamkin, okay. Our opponent's kind of like getting back into this. That wasn't great, though. So our opponent now has another turn. Has to block that. And we can Arcanist, and next turn the Arcanist can get back the God's Willing for that to be green and pump up all of our Luminancers. Again, a Grinning Angus from our opponent can probably set them off. Fergie? Yeah. Oh, another collected company. 3 collected companies, everyone. Okay. No Grinning Angus. Teamkin. Okay. Another elemental going up there. Oh, beautiful. So we can give this and this trample. And then Arcanist on that. And give, yeah, GG. Woo. That was close. So this is a hand that doesn't do a lot on its own, but I feel like there is potential. If our opponent has removal for the Arcanist, that's very, very bad, obviously, but you know, sometimes you just have to, you know, go for it. Stitcher's Supplier. Looks like our opponent is some type of Reanimator deck. If our opponent has removal, we're in a really, really bad spot. So please don't. Otherworldly Gaze. To, you know, mill or put whatever into the graveyard. Didn't look like anything fantastic. Alright. Oh, wow. If only we could give that haste. I'm gonna wait to Infuriate. Maybe I shouldn't. Oh, Drown Secrets. It looks like our opponent is a self-mill deck, maybe? Interesting. Like, what are the odds our opponent has, you know, a Fatal Push? 0, right? Is it 100%? No Fatal Push? Our opponent didn't have it, GG. Well, this hand doesn't do anything. So we mulligan. This hand's a little better. Let's get rid of that. We get the Clever Lumimancer here. We can't pump it or do anything. Ooh, red, white, red, white. Our opponent's probably on a mono blue tempo, or mono blue snow, or mono blue spirits, or whatever you want to say. Obsession, okay. Alright, this is interesting if our Arcanist can, like, live. Because now if our opponent has bounce or something, like this, this is a pretty decent spot. Yeah, we can put that up there. Spectral Sailor. Let's do it. Which one do we want? Do we just want to make one creature bigger or actually affect our Luminant? I actually think I want to target that. Yeah. Okay, our opponent's at 10. So the good thing about our current spot, right, is our opponent's deck, all their counter magic is a lot worse when, you know, all of our stuff is 1 mana. And Dreadhorde Arcanist is so much better against decks that, you know, can't really get rid of it once it's on the battlefield. So we're already mana efficient, and now we're just, you know, out valuing our opponent's deck. So let's try and give that pro blue. Now let's attack. Then we'll give that pro blue. Opponent's gonna block here. And that should be game. And it is. GG. Okay. We have the Lumimancer and Soul-Scar as turn 1 plays. So we'll Lumimancer here. Again with the Lumimancer Soul-Scar conundrum. Which I'm not sure what we should or shouldn't be doing. But, you know, this is fine here because we get a lot of... We get more damage here. Let's target that. And then we Arcanist. Hope our opponent doesn't have a Wrath or anything. Shark Typhoon. Okay. Now, there's one problem with Reckless Rage here. Oh. Is that it doesn't have a target. It does now. So let's do that. Ooh. We Reckless Rage, deal that and that. We can then Invigorated, give both of these Trample. Attack, and then give, what, both of these Trample? 4 game. GG. Thank you for watching me play some Boros Heroic and Explorer. This deck, as you saw, it's very, very, very quick and can just win out of nowhere, and that's the appeal of the deck. One thing that I've learned, and this is something I have a hard time doing, is you really need to mulligan very, very aggressively with this deck. Otherwise, I mean, it can win without mulliganing, right? But sometimes if you only have one creature in your hand, if your opponent has any interaction, you're just going to get stranded with all these spells that do nothing, and you just are going to cry. And that's not great. But, you know, it's something that as you play the deck more, you can figure out the, you know, specific risks you have to take in order to be like, oh, if I keep these 2 creatures or this 1 creature, I'll win. But if our opponent has removal, there's a huge balancing act, and that comes with learning the deck and playing with it and practicing with it. And, you definitely, it shows. I definitely learned a lot playing this deck, and I'm probably going to play around with it and figure out, how to do it a little better. So maybe you can too, and tell me what I should be doing, because I'm definitely playing a lot of it wrong, and that's okay, because that's what we're here to do, learn. And with all that being said, if you haven't already, you should totally like, comment, or subscribe. You can watch me stream live at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are, and thanks for watching. Bye.